Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Wicked. It was lunchtime when the Skarks and the wagons began the final difficult descent of the slope and the castle portcullis and the gates of Jasper and Oak. The townspeople came from their hovels and leaned against their weight against the carriage, hoping it through the ruts of mud and ice, until at last it turned in and crossed the open drawbridge. Elphaba, her curiosity as piqued as anyone else, stood with the Dowager Princess on the Arjikis and her sisters on a parapet above the crudely carved front doorway. The Chin waited in the cobblestone yard below, all but Lear. The leader, a grizzled young man, made the faintest mountain obstinance to Sarima. The Skarts defecated sloppily on the cobbles to the delight of the children who had never seen Skark a few minutes before. Then the leader went to the cabin and opened the door and climbed inside. They could hear his voice racing loudly as if talking to someone hard of hearing. They waited. The sky was piercing blue, almost a spring blue, and the icicles hung from the eaves in dangerous daggers, melting all like mad. The sisters all sucked in their stomachs, cursing the extra piece of gingerbread, the honey creamed in the coffee, vowing to do better. "Please, sweet Lorena, let it be a man." The leader came out of it and proffered a hand, and he helped a figure alight from the cabin. An old, creaky-limbed figure in sad dark skirts and a hideously out-of-fashion bonnet, even from the provincial point of view. But Elphaba was leaning forward, cleaving the air with her sharp chin and hatchet nose, and sniffing like a beast. The visitor turned, and the sun struck her face. "Good glory!" breathed Elphaba. "It's my old Nanny!" And she left the parapet to run and gather the old woman in her arms. "Human feeling. Will you look at that?" said Forrest sniffily. "I wouldn't have guessed her capable." For Auntie Guess was all but sobbing with pleasure. The caravan leader wouldn't stay for her meal, but Nanny, with her valises and trunks, clearly did not intend to go any farther. She settled in a small, musty room just below Elphaba's, and took the endless time it takes the elderly to make her toilet. By the time she was ready to be sociable, dinner was served. A gamey old hen, more rope than flesh, lay in a thin pepper sauce on one of the good salvers. The children were all dressed in their best, allowing this once to dine in the formal hall. Nanny came in on the arm of Elphaba and sat at her right hand. Because this was a visitor to Elfie, the sisters had kindly put Elfie's napkin ring at the foot of the table opposite Sarima, a place by custom left vacant in honor of poor dead Fierro. It was a big mistake, and they recognized it immediately, as Elphaba never relinquished her advancement. But for now on, it was all smiles and savory hospitality. The only small annoyance, besides that Nanny wasn't an eligible princeling for a bride, was that Lear still conducted his campaign of stolen disappearance. The children didn't know where he was. Nanny was a tired and fruity old woman, skin cracked like dried soap, hair thin and yellowy white, hands with veins as prominent as the cords around a good Arjiki goat cheese. She communicated wheezily, with pauses to breathe and think, that she had heard through someone named Crope in the Emerald City that her old charge Elphaba had attended Tibbet in his last days at the cloister of St. Glinda outside the Emerald City. No one in the family had heard from Elphaba in years and years, and Nanny had taken upon herself to find her. The Mounts were reluctant at first, but Nanny had persisted, and she had waited until a new caravan was ready to leave. The Mounts had told her about Elphaba's mission to Kiamako, and Nanny had booked a passage the following spring. And here she was. "And of the outside world?" asked two eagerly, let them catch up on family gossip in their own time. "What do you mean?" said Nancy. "Politics, science, fashion, the arts, the driving edge," said two. Our redoubtable wizard has crowned himself emperor." said Nanny. Did you know that? They hadn't heard. By whose authority? Asked Five. And furthermore, Emperor over what? There isn't anyone who has any more authority, he said Nanny calmly. And who could argue with that? He's in the business of handing out honors annually as it is. He just tacked on an extra one for himself. As for Emperor over what, I couldn't say. Some people whisper this implies expansionist aims. But where he could expand to, I couldn't say. I just couldn't. Into the desert, beyond, to Quox or Ix or Fleon. Or he means to have a more tight-fisted hold on terrain he's only loosely governed, asked Elphaba. Like the Vinkus? She felt a chill, like an old wound deep inside her breastbone. No one is particularly happy, said Nanny. There is an enforced conscription now, and the Gale forces threaten to outnumber the royal army. One doesn't know if there could be an internal struggle for power, and the wizards preparing against an eventual takeover attempt. How can one opinion above such things, old and female as we are? She smiled to include them all. The sisters and Sarima glared as youthfully as they could back at her. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.